Steady.
No!
Guys, I'm still not over Star Wars Battlefront, and a heads up to anyone who may really enjoy that game. This is not going to be a positive video, I'm just going to tell you that right now, but we're not going to be talking about the gameplay so much as we're going to be talking about the business structure. So if you enjoy the game, but agree that the business structure and how they've, say, created the DLC and released it for this game isn't that great, then by all means, stick around. But if you're just going to throw some comments in there calling me an idiot because I don't like the game, then you can go away. You can go watch someone who does like the game, you know. I don't even know why you found this video. Anyways, let's talk about the Star Wars Battlefront Death Star DLC and why it's kind of inspired me to make this video, because I'm a little bit peeved that after a year we have just now gotten things like space battles and what I would call an acceptable amount of maps and game modes for an entire full-fledged release. And the problem being that this full-fledged release is more than a $60 or $70 product and will cost you upwards of $100 for the entire experience. It really highlights just how much EA wants to grab your money. Now, I know that's become memes at this point, and everyone is quite aware of that, but I want to point it out because it's still happening at the end of the day, and it's something that needs to be addressed at some point. It really saddens me because I think that with another year in the oven, Star Wars Battlefront could have been an amazing title, and it could have included all the DLC content that we currently have and all the extra game modes, things like that, even a full single-player campaign, or maybe even, dare I say, you know, single-player skirmish modes that would have been in a full-release product that would have made it worthwhile to pick up. But instead, they split it all up into different DLC packs, and they've segregated the community so much now that it's really not worth getting if you're on the PC. In fact, I went over to check out the stats of people playing it, and on the PC, even with the release of the new DLC, there's still only 7,000 people playing it over the last 24 hours. Now, of course, that goes up a lot more when you get to console, but that's another story entirely, and this is a PC-focused channel, so we're going to be talking about that. In fact, even when I made my videos on it a couple months ago, there was only 5,000 people playing it. Now, that causes a big problem, especially when you split up in all this other DLC packs, because there's so many less people playing the same thing that it becomes very difficult to join into certain game modes. They've segregated their community so much at this point that if you just buy the base game, A, you're not getting a whole lot of content with it, and B, it's very difficult and almost flat out impossible to even join certain game modes and be able to play them reliably. Who wants to play Turning Point with 5 people on each team? The answer is no one. And the Death Star DLC just highlights this even more as it's released now. We're finally getting heroes like, say, Chewbacca, who really could have been in the original version of the game. That would have been amazing. And we're finally getting space battles, too, a year after release, which was one of the things that people were the most excited about the possibilities of when this game was announced. You know, space battles in the Frostbite engine. Why wasn't this in a full initial release of the game? And the answer to that is that EA just wants to throw games out there as quick as possible, net in as much cash as they can, and really disregard the ability for any developer to create a quality product. Now, I don't blame DICE so much. I mean, it's not like they can say no. They are owned by EA, and they are bound to what they say at the end of the day, but I really wish that they would get a bit more say when they're developing these games, because I feel really truly that if DICE had the option, they would have delayed the game for another year, thrown all this or most of the content into the initial release, and had a really solid product. But instead, they've just created all these DLC packs that have segregated the community so much you literally can't play specific game modes. On top of that, even with that extra year of development afterwards, there's still glaring omissions like proper single-player modes, and no, I'm not counting the recently released skirmish mode that's is okay actually, and I had a lot of praise for the game, but it still only includes the Walker Assault mode. Why the hell isn't there an ability to just play every single mode in the game with AI? That would increase the longevity of the game by tenfold, because then you could actually play these game modes that aren't playable right now in the online version of the game. The entire release and development process of this just leaves me scratching my head. And the only solution I have to it is that EA really needs to overhaul their business models for the post-release of video games. And I do have a solution for this. So, solution number one is to, yes, give literally every game they're developing an extra year in the oven so it can actually be like a fully fleshed out product that can do a lot of really cool things and leave people saying, yes, you know what, I got my money's worth after I bought this. And the second thing to do, if they are really that adamant on microtransactions and DLCs, to overhaul it so that you're getting to get exclusive content still, but it doesn't really have an impact and it doesn't segregate your community. Now, how do you do that? Now, as much as people might not like the way that, say, Overwatch's microtransactions work, it seems like EA is adamant on having some sort of additional revenue stream after these games are released, so why not just take that for their games going forward? It would have been a hell of a lot more acceptable and a hell of a lot better of a decision if in Star Wars Battlefront they just took the extra time to create more maps, add in a proper single-player mode, and instead of offering all this DLC that splits up the player base, they could just say, you know, offer people some skins for each team that you're fighting on. Why not give people on the Empire side the option to buy, say, a Clone Trooper version 1 skin, or someone on the Rebel side the option to get like a Wookiee skin or something like that? Now, a few of you are sitting there saying, well, if I can't get it without spending real money in the game, then that's unacceptable, and yes, I do actually agree with that. But what I'm doing here is kind of taking EA's stance where we need to get some sort of extra revenue from this, and we don't want to give players the full experience no matter what. So this is really the only explanation and idea that I can come up with that would, you know, actually work towards the benefit of both players and the developer and publishers themselves. Because if you give the ability to play as like a Mandalorian on the Rebel side, or some Mandalorian inspired armor on the Imperial side, maybe like a Republic Commando skin or something that players can buy, you get that additional revenue stream without having to, you know, hold back this extra content that should have been in the goddamn game from the very start. But alas, it's been almost a year and we're just now getting space battles, we're just now being able to play on the Death Star, and this is really just a highlight of how little they care about making their game have any sort of longevity and giving players the best experience possible right out of the gate. Because it's not about loving video games, it's not about loving Star Wars, it's about making that quick dollar and delivering solid pieces of a product to jigsaw together as you see fit, but that really doesn't work, especially when one version of your game literally doesn't have enough players to support all the game modes and DLC packs you have. So as a message to EA, to DICE, to the player base, I really hope that you can, you know, listen to some of these criticisms that have happened over the past year, because I'm not saying this because I don't want EA or Star Wars Battlefront to succeed. I'm saying this because I want it to be fixed, and I want everyone to be able to benefit from it. Now, for the inevitable release of Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is going to happen, it's gonna be a thing, I really just want them to take a few pages out of, say, Blizzard's book or something, and not separate the community, to be able to offer at least something solid upon the initial release of your game. And if that means having to sell skins separately, then in my opinion, so be it. If you need to absolutely get that extra dollar amount, then if you gotta do it, just make sure it doesn't separate people and it doesn't hinder our ability to play your game. Because really, I think that Star Wars Battlefront is the gold standard and a slap in the face to consumers who are excited about, yes, the Star Wars IP, and yes, the sequel to Battlefront, as well as just, you know, a good multiplayer shooter. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give this video a like. I'd be super appreciative. I am PattyJack, and I will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful day.